I mean, this is a big shift moment.
It seems like it's just a promise that keeps on stealing investor money.
We're moving from a world where AI just outputs to AI that takes actions. And that's a completely different level of trust.
Do you think they really did a U-turn based on the heartbreak of their users, or was it just a big PR disaster that they did a little bit of a reverse on?
It is what it is. It's failure. 70 billion worth.
If I was anywhere across the world, it could be doing things for me on my behalf. And it's just insane to see how amazing it is.
We don't have to constantly update and go forward and get the new phone and get the new thing, get the new AI app, get the new Agentic AI. We can just kind of bring it back a bit and feel good.
Hello and welcome to episode 109 of Disconnected. I'm your host, Jag Sharma, joined by my co-hosts Jason Kapadia in Dubai and Matt Webster in Rio de Janeiro. And together, we'll be delving into the world of AI, tech, and social media and how it's impacting society and culture. Coming up, wired headphones are making a comeback. Not because they're better, but because people might be getting tired of technology that's trying to be a little too smart, a little too seamless, and a little too invisible. Matt takes us into the latest twist in Meta's Metaverse journey, where Horizon Worlds was quietly being shut down in VR until users pushed back hard enough to bring it back. And Jason is diving into the next evolution of AI, where Anthropic's Claude can now actually use your computer and complete tasks for you, raising the question of how much control we're about to hand over to the machines. All of this, as well as other trending topics. Right then, guys, let's get straight into it. A lot to cover today. I'll go first. I came across this story, and on the surface, it all feels quite small. But the more I thought about it, the more it feels like it's saying something quite big about where we are with technology right now. Wired headphones are making a comeback. After years of decline, sales are growing again, people are choosing cables over convenience, and in some circles, they've even become a bit of a fashion statement. Now, logically, this makes absolutely no sense. We've spent the last decade being told that wireless is the future. No cables, no friction. Everything seamless. Everything just works. Except it doesn't always just work, does it? Bluetooth drops out, devices don't pair, batteries die at the exact wrong moment. And suddenly, plugging something in starts to feel weirdly satisfying. But I don't think this is really about sound quality. I think this is psychological. Because look at when this is happening. At the exact moment where we are right now. AI is becoming ambient. Devices are starting to act on our behalf. Technology is becoming more invisible than ever. We're seeing people move in the opposite direction towards something visible, tangible, and slightly inconvenient. Wired headphones don't pretend to be smart. They don't need updates. They don't make decisions for you. They just work. And I think for some people, that's starting to feel like a relief. There's also something quite interesting about the signal of it, because wearing wired headphones today almost says, I'm opting out, just slightly, from this always-on, hyper-connected version of tech. It's intentional, it's visible, it's a bit retro, and maybe even a bit rebellious. And we've seen this pattern before. Vinyl came back. Film cameras came back. Even DVDs and typewriters are quietly reappearing. Not because they're better, but because they feel more controlled, finite and human. So maybe this isn't really about headphones. Maybe it's about tech fatigue and about people pushing back quietly against technology that promises convenience, but increasingly feels complex, invisible, and slightly out of our control. And maybe what we're seeing is the early sign of something bigger, where people start to reintroduce friction on purpose, because friction makes things feel more real. So Matt, Jason, I guess the question is, are wired headphones just a nostalgic blip? Or are they a signal that people are starting to push back a little against the direction that technology is heading in? Would love your thoughts.
I've noticed that you've got wired headphones on today, Jag, but Jason's wireless and so am I. So maybe you've got a bit of emotion and nostalgia behind this. That's why you picked it, right? But I think I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I had a meeting recently with a client, FKA Brands. One of the brands they look after is Marley, and they've just had an absolute massive year with their vinyl players for Marley. And in that call was quite recently, the brand manager mentioned that Onkyo have just come back onto the map and are releasing CD players. So CD players are coming back. And in that call, it just hits the nostalgia. I'm like, where are all my CDs? I want them back. Where are my separates? I used to be one of those geeks that had separates. You had the amp, the CD player, all nicely stacked on each other with 1 million miles of wiring attached to them. I want them back. So it's obviously an age thing as a demographic, but I think there is a pushback. I think it can be bewildering with this with AI and with always on and screens. And I'm all for it. I want my CD collection back, and I want to contact Onkyo, and I want to get some vinyl. I used to have a vinyl collection, so yeah, please hook me up with some headphones with wires. Although I think I can get them at my local newsagents. So I'm on board with this, Jag. I like it because I've got a little bit of technology fatigue. I think one of our other co-hosts might have an opposing view. What do you think, Jason?
No, I mean, actually, you know what? When I saw Jag's article, I actually went and fetched out a set of wired earphones, but it's just such a pain to have them plugged in. But I've noticed one thing, Jag, you've had these wired headphones on not just today, you've had it for as long as I can remember. You've been using them. Is there a reason?
Good question. I think ease. So I work remotely, and so I work like 98% remote now, and I just find them reliable. If I've got to plug into with a work laptop, join a Teams call, rather than faffing about with Bluetooth connectivity, just plug in and go. And I know they're going to work. And then, my Bluetooth headphones, they're always listening. They're activating stuff on my phone, When you enunciate as well as I do, the iPhone just wants to listen to you all the time. So, yeah, that's why I favor wired. It's just easier.
So wait, is there a jack in your computer? How is it connected to your computer right now? Or is it like a jack to a dongle to a USB to something else?
Oh, I'm not using a fancy MacBook or anything. It's a Windows-based laptop, so there is a headphone jack.
Are those the Apple earbuds?
I live in Hong Kong, so they look like Apple earbuds.
They're Shenzhen earbuds, I guess, then, huh?
Some kind of Apple-esque logo might be on here somewhere. I think these ones are actually Samsung.
I was reading up about it, and they're saying that wired headphone shipments have jumped 20% in the first quarter alone. But it seems that people aren't just buying the cheap replacements, they're buying these premium analog series headphones. And also that a bunch of these companies are putting out high-end USB-C wired models as well now. So it's not just the 3.5mm jack anymore. And since I switched to iPhones, but it was always a pain to get a good quality pair of headphones that were, using the lightning cable. from the old iPhones. But since it switched to USB-C, I think I'm probably going to maybe go out there and buy a pair because, my AirPods are always dying on me. And I do find it annoying, but for some reason, I just didn't think there was a choice to go back to wired. It's like going back in time. But I think, I'm going to give it a try.
They say never go back, but with technology, maybe that's an exception. Because also another angle, an apocalyptic angle, would be, it's quite easy for things to be destroyed in the current world that we live in. That could mean data centers. That could mean, all the places where the cloud, where our internet is being housed, whether it's like being cooled under oceans or wherever they are. If the internet goes down, and there's a country at the moment that's had its internet down for a month, then none of this stuff works. The headphones I'm currently using don't work. I can't listen to any music on Spotify. So there's also that to consider. Isn't it just feel a bit nicer that you've got like your bunker and you've got your physical music that you can play, just put the jack in, and nothing that happens above ground can stop you from listening to your music. So that's just one kind of extreme take on it of why people might be liking it.
Matt, do you have a CD burner still?
No, not anymore. But I used to, before I went to Mac, I used to insist on having my laptop having a CD. I used to press and it used to come out the side of the laptop. And I think it was Toshiba, the last one I had. So, the answer is no, I don't anymore, but I hung on to it for a while. No, I don't.
Let's not go back over Matt's age, because he always shows his age when he starts talking about things like this. He does look incredibly young. So anyway, the I don't know what you're preparing for, Matt, in terms of being under a bunker and not having Spotify. Thinking more about what I said earlier with my approach to wired headphones, I guess for me personally, there are occasions where I reach a point where frictionless actually becomes a little bit exhausting. The whole connecting to Bluetooth, I do find a genuine challenge when I go from device to device. And then I went through I had a phase where I actually had two separate wireless headphones because connecting from one computer then to my other one was a challenge. So going back to wired headphones, the small amount of friction just gave me reassurance and I guess gave agency back to me. And so I think I was happy to have that small friction just to have the control back. But I think just a follow-up question to that to you both would be, that's just a very personal perspective from my experience, but do you think broadly this trend back to wired, do you think it's actually about functionality or how technology makes people feel?
I was reading up about a trend on these wired headphones, and it's called the boutique cable boom. And basically these high-end headphones, have detachable cables and stuff. And there's a secondary market that has really kind of exotic materials that are wrapped around the actual copper. And the materials are like silk and leather. So I think it's a bit of, like you were saying, Jag, before, it's about showing, subtly, what you're into and what your kind of beliefs are about technology. I'm not sure if I'll do anything like that, but yeah, it's. I think it's more like the mechanical keyboard and all of those different things. It's just applied that same thing to audio now.
It's choosing between perfect convenience or perfect control. And we know historically convenience wins, and there's examples of this, Blockbuster, Netflix, and tons of other examples beyond that. But now maybe control is gaining a bit of value, in this age of increasing amounts of invisible tech, the related tech. Maybe this is a subtle backlash against AI and hyper smart technology that's being thrust upon us, not just in our personal lives, but also in work. So yeah, I hear you, Jason. For you, I think you will always pick the convenience and seeing that wireless is convenient for you. But Matt, would you stick with wireless, or do you see a world where you go back to wired, or do you see a future of both? Is it a hybrid?
it's not going to completely go back. I think it's going to be a hybrid, but the main driver for me is nostalgia. I did see what Jason said, that, it's kind of a bit of a statement, and, you got people on the tube in London kind of like with the wires of the headphones, like, I'm showing you my beliefs and where I stand with technology and stuff. That's kind of, it feels like a fashion fad, but nostalgia is super powerful, and that will remain. So I think the people that used to enjoy more analog technology, I think they're going to be wooed by the nostalgia of realizing, yeah, we can go back. It's like what Jason just said. I didn't even realize I could go back. So I think people are realizing that we don't have to constantly update and go forward and get the new phone and get the new thing, get the new AI app, get the new Agentic AI. We can just kind of bring it back a bit and feel good. You know what's quite weird? If you ever watch Star Wars, let's take an example of A New Hope, the first one that came out, the fourth movie, that the technology that is portrayed in those films is based on ideas and brains and creatives that are from the late 70s and 80s, right? And everything then, technology was tangible objects that you put into other objects for the technology to work, And if you think about the whole flipping narrative of that film is chasing a robot that's got a fancy USB stick with some plans on it that they need to get back, right? R2-D2, he's got a solid bit of hardware with information on it that they physically have to chase him to get. Why doesn't he just transmit it to the cloud? They've got it, end of film, But if you watch Star Wars, and it's the same with the other episodes, because obviously it's in its own world, all the technology is very clunky, switchy, on-y. There's nothing transmitting data anywhere. And I think when I watch Star Wars now, I notice that more because we've moved on. As a kid, it's just like, yeah, spaceships. Now when I watch it, I'm like, that's really old tech. Why doesn't he just send him an email instead of flying at light speed with a USB stick to deliver the message, And I like it. I like Star Wars even more because it has that. So nostalgia for me is a biggie.
Thanks for that, Matt. And thanks for the
Did
bit.
that make any sense at all? I'm so sorry.
I hope George Lucas listens to it. All the folks at Disney. I think we'll wrap up on this one, but I did like your point about the London Tube, because that took me back, and it just shows how I've kind of gone 360 and I've gone back to wired. Because in 2016, I won Marketing Person of the Year just in my team, right? So not just a made up thing, right? So when I worked at a big grey bank, and of course the big grey bank could afford, a massive prize, but no, of course not. I just got these wired Bose over ear headphones, wired. And I remember getting them, and they were over ear and they were Bose. And then when I saw they had a big thick wire attached to it, I was like, this is terrible. Like, what am I going to do with these? Everyone's going in there. They're yes, over ear, but everyone had their Beats and they were wireless. And then now I've got these Bose with the wire. And I was disgusted with them. Gave them away.
What?
But today I'd probably want them. So there we go. All right. Well, wired headphones are back. Let's see if it's a trend or if it's something for the medium to long term. We shall see. And you know what, guys? Let's move on. And Matt, I am super excited about your topic today because it's about that wonderful world, that wonderful universe, the Metaverse.
Ah, yes, the Metaverse. Horizon Worlds, what a place to be. So this is going to be based on a U-turn as well, actually, because you've just been talking about technology, wired headphones. Is there a U-turn back to old tech? This is a definite U-turn that's been done by Meta. So on the 17th of March, Meta came out and said, we've told their users, Horizon Worlds, which is like a place where you can go and interact with other people. You can have meetings, you can do dance-offs. I don't know if you've ever entered that world, but Horizon Worlds has the VR aspect to it as well. And they told the users, Meta, that they were no longer going to support Quest headsets from the 15th of June, pretty much meaning they're going to turn off the VR element of Horizon Worlds. And this, obviously, the internet went crazy. Saw Rob Mayhew on LinkedIn. he pushed out a parody of this, of one of his hilarious posts of somebody complaining about the fact, oh my God, but Mark told us that this was going to be the future. What do you mean you're shutting it down? It was really funny. And so there was a lot of bad press around this because, of course, this was pushed out as the cornerstone platform of the company's Metaverse vision. In 2021, Facebook spent a lot of money changing their name from Facebook to Meta. I don't know if you were around and remembered, but I was weirdly in the right place at the right time. But back in 2021, some of us were still locked down. It was still the world of the pandemic. And I remember just being on my phone at the moment as Mark Zuckerberg popped up saying, Mark Zuckerberg is live. And I watched all of his 30-minute live broadcast about how he was going to, his vision for changing our digital lives forever, his ambition for creating this VR social world where we all wear Quest headsets and meet each other dressed as pandas in spaceships. And I'm saying that because part of the video, when he was introducing it, he went into Horizon Worlds on his headset and was sat on a spaceship talking to, people, avatar lizards and things. And so that came out in 2021, and they created Reality Labs as a result of that. And Reality Labs were, or still are, heading up Horizon Worlds. They poured 73 billion into the VR and AR experience of Horizon Worlds and the rebrand as well. But Horizon Worlds never became the hit that Zucky wanted it to be. So 17th of March, Meta comes out and says, that's it. In June this year, we're switching off VR. It's the end of the virtual reality dream. A day later, or less than a day later, the Meta Chief Tech Officer, Andrew Bosworth, said the company has decided to actually keep running Horizon Worlds in virtual reality after fans have said that they are heartbroken by the move. I've got a lot of suspicion around that, and I'd love to get your thoughts and comments on that because, heartbreak is not usually a business decision that companies the size of Meta base their business decisions on. So, I'm sure in 2008, Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns were heartbroken, but there was no U-turn there. So for the foreseeable future, we've got a U-turn. Horizon Worlds VR will now not be turned off, but it will have limited support just for the people that like using it, just for the nerds and geeks that are actually using Horizon Worlds. Apologies if either of you two or any listeners are big fans. And the push going forward from Meta is going to be not Quest headsets, not VR, but on mobile. The mobile version of Horizon World has seen an increase of 53% year on year. They've got 45 million downloads on iOS and a piddly 1.5 on Google Play as of this year so far. So they see some value in keeping VR access, but Meta is shifting towards mobile. Surprise, surprise. Final comment I'll make on this, which is a bit of a sad one to end on, is obviously as a result of this, Reality Labs, who were created to make this our new digital immersive world, have seen 1,500 job losses already this year as a result. So they might not have fully pulled the plug, but they kind of pulled the plug and then slightly put it back in again. What do you guys think? Are you involved in the VR experience of Horizon Worlds? Do you think they really did a U-turn based on the heartbreak of their users, or was it just a big PR disaster that they did a little bit of a reverse on?
I'm really glad you brought this to the pod today. I don't think this is really about Horizon Worlds. I think what this shows is that it's the slow collapse of the original Metaverse narrative. There's a clear gap between the vision they had versus human behavior. And the company is quietly trying to pivot without admitting failure. Classic. Companies do it all the time. You can invest 70 billion in building a VR future. The users didn't show up in the way that they expected. I love the last point you made. Mobile is now where the traction actually is, specifically iOS for now. So it's a strategic retreat disguised as a product decision. And I would say this might be a user-led win. For me, I think it confirms that VR just isn't mass market behavior yet. The hardware barrier is still too high. The behavior change required was too big. Phones remain the default interface. And we are seeing the rise in smart glasses. And, come December, my prediction will come true with the million sales, but that's for another day. But yeah, this was a bridge too far, and they're hiding failure as a product update or a step change. But it is what it is. It's failure. 70 billion worth.
I don't know if you guys remember when the PlayStation 3 was being launched back in 2008, they released PlayStation Home. Do you guys remember that? Or was it just me? It's like a similar type of, they had a vision that, all the users will log on and have this kind of, not VR headsets on, but they would all interact in this kind of digital world, and you'd have your avatar and you could kind of run around and do whatever you wanted. And then that failed because after a while, it just becomes a ghost town. And that's the exact same thing that happened with Horizon Worlds as well. I mean, at its peak, they were saying, like you're saying, Horizon Worlds only had 200,000 or maybe 300,000 monthly active users. And that's nothing for a company of Facebook's scale. And in terms of even the mobile downloads, where they're saying that they still have traction, most of the users who are logging on and they're kind of like vibe checking it, and they log on once and they don't come back. And so it just shows that there's just not enough interest in this type of experience yet. I think that there has to be like a big leap in technology and form factor, like you were saying, Jag, for it to have any kind of, I don't know, like just an app, for an app like this to actually work. Yeah, but I guess there are like this core bunch of users, very vocal, that really want it to stay alive. But if you look at what they're actually doing, is that after June the 15th, you can visit these worlds, but you can't build, publish, or update on the, it's basically just going to be this kind of historic artifact where you can kind of go in and say, look what's around. But most of these worlds apparently have zero visitors in them anyway. So it's just a massive cash drain on Meta, and they need to really be focusing on where the money is at right now, which is AI.
I remember the PlayStation Home, and I just did a quick search on it while you were talking about it, because it did bring a whole flood of memories back. I think that potentially also suffered because the PlayStation 3 it was no good. I think it was probably the worst PlayStation they launched, and the PlayStation 2 was so good. So that probably contributed as well. But yeah, that whole thing, the PlayStation Home, it was, as you rightly said, 2008 launch. It was a social gaming network, dedicated user base, trying to generate revenue through microtransactions. Shut down in 2015, decline in interest, troubled development phase, lack of users. Yeah, interesting. History repeats itself just a few years later.
Yeah. VR social's never become mainstream, despite all this money and despite all this determination from, Zuckerberg, and needing the Quest headset in the example of Meta. It just adds too many barriers. And what you just said, Jason, vibe checking, it's exactly what I did. I went, okay, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at Horizon Worlds. Had a look. Seems to be obsessed with creating your own avatar. Couldn't care less about creating my own avatar. See you later. Left. Literally 15-minute journey. But I'm gonna guess that counted as a positive interaction, as a download to Meta. It's so true. Did you ever get a Quest headset, Jag? You strike me as someone who would have if you're buying Snap glasses, you're bound to be getting a Quest headset.
I did not, but I also had a chance to have a play around with it. And do you know what? The whole avatar thing, I remember I didn't even finish it because I was thinking, I did this when I got my Nintendo Wii, and why can't I just port my Mii across from my old Nintendo Wii, because I like my Mii and I want that to go across. But of course, different platforms, not going to work. But I'm not going to, don't think anything will top the Mii that I made on the Nintendo Wii. But, those days are gone as well. But yeah, the whole thing, beyond creating an avatar and then joining empty rooms with a few other people during COVID, when Zoom was already solving, a lot of these remote issues for people. But no, I did not have a headset.
The only way it really influenced me that I can remember, this whole, announcement of the metaverse, was during the pandemic. I was on a Zoom call, and me and the client that were chatting decided to go into avatars, but it wasn't even the metaverse. The metaverse had influenced us. So we're in Zoom, and I think I spent the first 5 minutes as a box of fries, and the client was some sort of crocodile. And after about a minute, it's like, can we stop? This is just not funny. It's just weird. And that was pretty much the end of the influence that I got from Zuckerberg's big vision.
Just a little broader observation. We talked about Horizon Worlds. We talked about PlayStation Home. What does this say about how much companies can actually shape our behavior versus follow it? Because, tech can push, but unless the people, embrace and take on that behavior change, it can't be forced. Adoption in many ways is more cultural than technological. And I think that's an interesting learning here. If they keep coming back to VR, the two examples we've discussed have happened in quick succession. PlayStation 3, 2008 to 2015, and now, Horizon Worlds, pandemic till now. And it's not winning over. And just an observational point that it's not just the great tech. People actually have to have a reason to want to adapt their behavior to use it. To go from a BlackBerry or a Nokia to, an iPhone. There was a cultural adoption there to do away with buttons and just to use a touchscreen. There were people that en masse, people embraced that. And people aren't embracing VR headsets. It's too sci-fi. I think it's still too sci-fi.
I guess, going from a Nokia to a BlackBerry to an iPhone, you get the productivity gains, you get the whole social, you get all of that, but also you can just put it away whenever you want. You can bring it out whenever you want. It's such a big faff to use VR. Like, you have to be set up. You have to have the time to want to be putting into it. And I know I'm sure the tech is going to get better and better, and probably maybe 2030 or something like that, there'll be a new form factor that could potentially shift people into like VR like never before. But again, it seems like it's just a promise that keeps on stealing investor money and then not panning out, I guess, for now. I guess, with VR, like they're talking about these meetings and all this type of stuff that you could do with it to try to make it productive. But would you guys ever use that type of thing for meetings and try to be all your avatars? Does that even appeal to you?
Absolutely not. No. And even if I had a client that insisted that we go into Horizon Worlds, I'd probably fire that client quite quickly. It's not for me.
The only benefit I could see is not something that Horizon Worlds can solve. It can be solved through existing other platforms like Teams or Zoom or whatever. There are some people that are just so uncomfortable with having their camera on, and then they want to have an avatar that represents them. And if the company that they work for has a culture of creating safe spaces and is super understanding in that direction, that's something that can already be achieved within existing platforms. We all don't need to put on a VR headset and dive into a whole new world for that to happen. Matt, you look puzzled and frustrated and disappointed with the world.
Let's be honest, though. There's plenty of people that don't like to turn their camera on in meetings. I have plenty of meetings where I speak to throbbing initials of people's names that talk back to me. I never see who they are. I had a meeting last week. There was about 12 people on the call. I was the only one with the camera on. And I was talking to VW, SP, TT. I thought it was a bit weird, but it's their prerogative. I'm not going to make them turn their camera on, but I actually would prefer the throbbing initials to them, talking to a panda, an elephant, a box of fries, and a Big Mac. No. We don't have to overcomplicate it. If you don't want to turn your camera on, your initials will appear, and I'll be able to hear you speak.
Sure, I don't mean talking fries, but maybe a human-esque avatar that represents them. But I do get your point. We don't need to overcomplicate it. Camera on, camera off is perfectly fine for me. I see the challenge we have. I'm trying to find a use case, and even the use case we have isn't really needed.
Yeah, you don't need AI for that, definitely. I mean, AI video is already so good. It can make you look like anyone. You can be Celine Dion or whoever you want to be, as you're, taking the video stream in. Even if you didn't want it on, it could just probably just take your mic input and simulate a human. So I don't see any good use case for VR at the moment. Even, I mean, like, what a failure Apple's Vision Pro is as well. Like, I'm seeing them on sale now for like a couple of $100. Those guys have spent like $3,000 on it. It's just, wow.
Yeah, great point. And also great insight into your Spotify preferences, Jason, with Celine Dion. I think we'll move on. We'll move on, guys. But thanks for bringing that to the table, Matt. But yeah, let's move on. And you know what, guys? I am going to miss seeing videos of Michael Jackson at KFC dancing or at McDonald's eating fries, because not only is Sora shutting down, Jason's got equally scary or potentially exciting updates for us from the world of Claude. Jason, take us through it.
All right. So Claude, they have been on an absolute tear recently. If you look at their Twitter profile, you can literally see a new feature is shipped every day. It's insane. And this one had me really excited because I've been using it for the last, I think, 24 hours, and it seems to be doing a lot of work for me, which I previously hated. So let me take you through it. There is a Claude desktop app, and in there you can do the regular things. You can chat with Claude. You can get it to do a lot of your coding for you and do projects and all of that. But there's a new feature which they put on, which is like a computer use feature where it takes over whatever applications that you want it to, and it can see everything that application shows you on your desktop, and it can move the mouse around and it can actually do things for you. So it's really insane how good it's become. I know we've talked previously about some projects that were doing something like this, but they've kind of brought together all of the good features and they've made it, it's not terribly fast, but let me take you through one of the use cases that I was using it for. So, owning an app, you get a lot of customer support issues, and I just don't like replying back to all of them. So I asked Claude, I had a bit of a chat with Claude and telling it this is how you should respond. Here's some examples of what I've replied to with these type of tickets. And so it took over my Chrome browser, started going through all the tickets, responding to them, and if they had certain issues, it would open up a contact form to like Transport for London, automatically fill out the form for that user instead of asking them to actually go back to TfL and fill it out if it was some lost property or whatever else it is, just kind of doing all of that. And it's now doing that on my behalf. So I don't need to do anything. And it's so weird to actually watch everything just moving around on the screen. It's like there's like an invisible junior colleague that's actually just working on your behalf and you're just watching it. Okay, it's not super fast at the moment, like I said, but it's remarkable that AI has now got to the stage where it can actually do work for me. There's this new feature they also shipped, which is called Dispatch, which on your phone, you can tap the dispatch icon and you can ask Claude to do anything that you could do on your computer, even while you're away from the computer. So I have Slack open, and I asked Claude, while I was sitting in the other room watching TV, can you take this file and upload it to my colleague and give a description? So it found the file using the Finder app, it uploaded it, it sent the message for me. So if I was anywhere across the world, it could be doing things for me on my behalf. And it's just insane to see how amazing it is, right? So that this is the crazy thing, is we've stepped into an era where AI is really genuinely helping to improve itself, right? So a lot of these capabilities, like Claude was actually involved in writing the software to do this. So it's iterating and improving itself, right? And it's testing, refining, and like we've already seen bonkers progress over the last couple of years, but now with this AI agent adoption going like from 11% to 40% in just the last couple of quarters, now we're seeing with this computer use, I reckon by the end of the year, we're going to have like a decent chunk of the population that do office work is going to have some kind of subscription like this Claude. For $20 a month, it can just do tasks that you don't like to do, whether it could be bookkeeping, your accounts, whatever it is that you don't like to do. You could just tell Claude to do this while you're sitting there watching Netflix in another window or something like that. I really think this is how amazing it is. Guys, have you used Claude Computer Use, or have you checked out the videos? What do you guys think?
So it can do tasks that I don't want to do.
On your computer, yeah.
Deal with my team, deal with my manager.
Yeah.
Deal with
the human things.
Deal with every human.
It can. I mean, if it can even reply. Go into my Microsoft Teams at the moment or Slack, and just if I get any messages at me, it can just reply back to them on my behalf. If you're in a work scenario, I don't know if they'll allow you to install Claude, but if they're monitoring your mouse usage and all of that, it can move around the mouse and literally go from window to window, make it look like you're working. And yeah, it can do tasks while you're not even at the screen, which is just insane.
Can it work just through the mobile device? So if I have Teams on my mobile device, or it needs to be on an actual computer?
It needs to be on an actual computer because it needs to be able to control a window and then type into there. So at the moment, it only works on that. I mean, it's not available on phones yet, although it would be awesome to be able to do that on your iPhone, but it's not there yet.
Of course, I was asking for a friend, not for me. But for me, I mean, this is a big shift moment. We're moving from AI as a tool that we use to AI as a system that acts on our behalf. And what you've brought here today, Jason, is a window into that fundamental change. We're moving from a world where AI just outputs, gives you answers to whatever you input, to AI that takes actions. And that's a completely different level of trust. From what you've said, Claude can now open apps, navigate browsers, complete workflows. And I believe from some of the links you shared, you can prompt from a phone, but the execution is on the computer. It's competing with OpenClaw in the sense of the Agentic, the agent race is now on. I think the only question I have really, from my perspective, is at what point does all this convenience start to feel like we're just giving up too much control? It's that point of delegation versus autonomy. The boundary is shifting, and it's it's scary, but also exciting.
It is exciting. The thing is, I don't think so. A quick example, I'm pretty sure somebody was using this or something similar to this, Jason, in chatting to me about a week ago. And it was a genuine it was about a new project, and it was kind of scoping out how I would get involved, and it was all professional. But then as the conversation went on, I started to get suspicious that the person I was speaking to was not the person, it was an AI agent. And then it became very obvious, and I ejected. It didn't make me feel good. I was like, I feel like I'm being lied to because that's not you. So when you say it speaks to people on your behalf, which you said earlier, do you get your little Claude Junior office clerk to say, by the way, I'm speaking on behalf of Jason? Or does it pretend it's you to other people? Because I think at the moment there's a danger there, 'cause it's not good enough to pretend to be you, I don't think yet, is it?
So the way it works is it will do what you tell it to do. So with these customer service tickets that I'm supposed to be replying to, I got it to understand exactly what to do and then automatically reply back to them. But for the first, I think it was 30 or 40 tickets, I got it to send me a message back to say, this is what I'm going to say. And I would reply back to say, no, change this. And then it would reply with something that I've approved for it to send. And then once I knew it was good enough, then I just got it, especially for the non-urgent tickets. And in terms of replying to someone on Teams or Slack or anything like that, it can ping the dispatch section of the Claude app, and it can tell you, look, this person replied or has asked you this question. how do you want to reply? And it can give you an answer and you can approve it, or you can actually say this. And so you can still be in control of it, but then you don't need to be at your desk the whole time, right? And it will learn your intents over time. So then you can kind of put it on autopilot. But I think that is dangerous, especially when you're dealing with colleagues and other humans. You don't want to just have the AI doing all of that for you. It can take away, 50% of the workload pretty much if you want it to, if you put in the time to teaching it what to do.
I think that's the key there. You've been the mentor to it. You've put the time in to teach it. So you're aware that it's not perfect. So you hang around for its first few interactions, which is what you would do when you're training up a junior person. You just did that with Claude AI, but I'm guessing it was a much quicker experience to get them up to speed. So mega interesting. Wow. Okay. I'm just going to go off and subscribe now.
What happens though when it gets something wrong, Jace, but you didn't actually do it? Is the accountability is a bit blurry, and I think having a human in the loop, you being in the loop, is probably critical.
Yeah, 100%. Especially as this is still in research experimental phase, I wouldn't trust it completely for a couple of years at least, especially handling. I haven't given, on this computer that I was using it on, I didn't log into my real Gmail. I actually wiped the whole computer and just installed it with a few key things that I wanted it to interact with. But just looking at the biggest change here is that before, like you were saying, Jag, you would have this chat interface and you'd kind of get it to do certain things for you, but then you'd always be copying and pasting and trying to do that. But now, as it can use the tools that you already use on your computer, this is just where you can get it to train on your, like you said, workflows. And I really think that's this is going to be the massive change that we're going to see in the workplace. And having like a junior employee next to you, and I've been talking about that for quite a while, but this is like really where it's surpassed my expectations on how quickly this change is going to happen.
I think as you pointed out, the trust gap still exists. Your point earlier on about this being used in many companies this year, I think small companies, startups, businesses, owner businesses, that are running it hands-on. Yeah, I could see them being the early adopters and experimenting and using it in a safe way. I like your little tips there of how to use it safely. But, the majority of companies, I don't think they're going to use that this year, but they'll be keeping a close eye for sure. This is exciting. You've been predicting it for a while, Jace. We are clearly at the real beginning of the agent economy, something that you've been talking about on the pod for a while. This is where it becomes tangible. It's not theory anymore. These are real workflows, real case study examples that you've given. We're not just outsourcing thinking anymore. We're starting to outsource the actual doing.
Yeah, but the thing is that, with everything on AI, you think that we're just moving forward and forward and forward. But looking at the most recent news from OpenAI, they're actually retiring their Sora app. And we did an episode on how amazing the output from Sora was, but it seems like it's costing OpenAI way too much money to run it, and they're not making enough return on it, and they are going from this company that's trying to do everything with AI to kind of now trying to focus on what Claude is doing, which is the enterprise, and coding and trying to be like a super helpful assistant rather than this video generation and all that. So now it leaves Google and a few smaller labs on the video game only. Did you guys see the news about that?
I saw that, yeah, and I thought that the costs were probably they were linked with. There's a big link with Disney, wasn't there, with Sora and OpenAI, and so Disney gave them the rights to use their IP, and I'm guessing that just cost far too much, and that the IP element of creating new video with AI, they've probably just looked at that minefield and thought, yeah, maybe that's not for us, and maybe we're dishing out more than we thought to Disney. I did notice that they said, don't worry, though, we're still going to be creating images as well as being the helpful assistant. And I noticed recently that I was using actually Grok a lot for simple, nice, easy videos for quite a few clients. And Grok, yesterday I noticed it, so I don't know how long it's actually been implemented. You have to pay extra for that video product that was quite good, that they obviously teased everyone with. Not surprising, a little bit annoying, but I think I might go there. I might try them out. So Sora and Disney have pushed me to Grok. I never thought I'd say that. Oh my God.
I don't think we'll miss Sora for long. I mean, there's so many competitors that will try and fill the gap as top alternatives, and they're already there. Runway, Kling, Google VO, Seedance, loads, even more, Hey Gen, if we want to count them, although not the biggest fan. But, there's loads. So by the end of the year, we might even forget the name Sora, I think things will move on that quickly.
Yeah, but to let $1 billion investment from Disney kind of go down the drain really means something, right? But I guess sky high compute costs and, generating these short video clips to strategically kind of refocus on enterprise tools and coding agents. I think that's the way forward right now. Because I think, Jag, your prediction is that one of the AI labs were going to IPO, right? Was it OpenAI?
No, it was Anthropic. You and Jen forced me to pick one. And I didn't say that they'd IPO. I said that they would announce. Not
of course they announce. So. Yeah, I reckon they're trying to push forward for an IPO before. They've actually got a lot of issues with Microsoft at the moment, and yeah, I think they're really scrambling. So they're going to try to get an IPO in as quick as possible and cash out.
I know it'll happen because I predicted it. Guys, I think we're gonna wrap up, but I just want to ask super quick question, and I just want a 1-sentence answer from either of you, just out of interest, because we covered kind of three different but connected topics today, that I think they all lean on a future of where we're heading towards having way more technology in our lives, but then some resistance in the sense of maybe the technology is not right for us, and then therefore we reject the 70 billion invested. Maybe we want to have a bit of nostalgia or have a little bit of friction just so we have our agency and our control back. And also maybe we want to hand over more control to, a real hands-on assistant, an AI agent. So my question for you both, and I just want a very short answer. Are we moving towards a future where we want technology to do more for us or less for us?
Very quickly, I would say more for us, because we could just be way more productive with our time.
More for us, but in areas that we, the consumers, decide. So consumer power will win.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, listeners. This has been episode 109 of Disconnected, and we'll see you on the next one.